I'll now turn the mic over to Melissa to tell us about this interesting experience.
Hi guys, I won't keep everybody really long. This was a last-minute decision. Dr. Hirsch had asked me to consider, since we were going, consider trying. I was up in the reception for San Jose State, and I said, okay, I'm going to go down. I went down. They did an icebreaker. They didn't tell you anything. You just went in the room, and they wouldn't tell you what the contest was about. They wouldn't tell you anything. They did an icebreaker, which was like on shoes, looking for people with different shoes. The one mandate was no more than 2 students from the same university could be on a team. So, like I said, I was in the room a couple minutes late. We started, we kind of shuffled around, looked at each other and said, okay, we're a team. And we went and sat down. There were 4 other teams aside from us, so 5 teams. And as you can see, it was Justin, myself, Tanya, and Ellen. Ellen, by the way, was from Simmons. So it was kind of interesting that I ended up with one of their students. And we went down, and you came up with a name, and they said, okay, now that you're all sitting together, here is the problem. And just in a quick synopsis, it's basically the idea of a filter bubble. When you are navigating the web, in particular somewhere like Amazon, Google, whatever, they begin to track your preferences and purchases and whatnot. So we focused, as you can see, on Amazon.com, but you start to accumulate basically a filter for what's being presented to you in suggestions, in your purchasing history, and it skews the way you see things. And this can be true for, like I said, for Amazon, for Google, for anywhere where they're tracking where you're clicking, Facebook, the ads they present on the side, and it skews what you're able to see. So you stop realizing to the full extent of what you could really be seeing because they've narrowed you further and further. Groups took literally every tact under the sun to answer this question. Some people were so theoretical and had so very little content. We were very, very content driven. We had a real kind of plan, and we came up with a UI design. So if we want to pop to the next slide, let's see. There we go. So our theory was embracing the bubble, and we wanted to educate our consumer as to the fact that there was a bubble and that they could start to utilize it for their to their best, in their own best interest, rather than just having it done to them. And we felt that by doing this, the bubble would then work for customers, it would work for Amazon, and it would work for advertisers. But explicitly, we wanted to give the option to pop the bubble. And this was something that a lot of the other groups did not get into, the idea that you could completely pop the bubble. So our idea is that we are working for Amazon, and this is our product that we're going to, or UI redesign. Oops, shoot, I held the button too many times. So this was Justin's little story. Basically, 3 years ago, he bought bath salts for his mother. Ever since then, bath salts keep showing up. And now he is bound and determined he will never buy bath salts again because he's absolutely tired of seeing them in his recommendations for use section. Plus you get emails, you don't want them. You get these congested, as you can see, recommendations that make absolutely zero sense. So we felt that what we could prevent is, under the current UI, if anybody uses Amazon, it's very difficult. They have an Amazon gift organizer which attempts to alleviate some of this problem of recommendations and wish lists, and it's very difficult to get to. There's no method to organize the past purchases in with this stuff. and you just really get cruddy recommendations, to be perfectly honest. And there is no way that we could find, because we whipped all through the Amazon site in desperate attempt to find it, there's no way to turn this off. So the general user, we felt, would not be able to determine what the bubble was, how this was being formulated, how to manage. I mean, there was at one point a whole section about, you could say this isn't something of interest. I mean, you had to go through like every single recommendation and try to pitch it. So we had the bright idea of what is the most talked about UI right now, and we decided it was Google's Plus and the whole methodology that they have for managing contacts and friends and this kind of stuff. So we, building on that, felt we could use their UI to come up with more relevant recommendations. We could allow people to selectively, as it says, pop the bubbles. So we could create little recommendation bubbles that people could then decide, I don't like this anymore, and get rid of it. And really our key, I think, that kind of won it for us was that we kept hammering on the point that we were going to have user awareness of filtering. So people would really be aware that when you are on a site shopping, you are being filtered a set of recommendations based on, there's actually a algorithm where it's like yours, the closest person to you, how all of yours intersect in a Venn diagram, and those are the items that they start recommending to you. Yeah, it's a really little complicated algorithm that they run to start making recommendations to. And we said, you know, if people don't understand that they're being filtered in this way, or how it's happening, or how they can control it, then it all kind of becomes useless. So we came up with the idea of Amazon bubbles. You can add items to the bubbles control your recommendations, and users control the bubbles. So those were the very important key elements to this whole thing. So here's our UI. Like I said, some people had nothing. They had just very general ideas and theories of how things can happen. I think this was a key reason, because we had concrete. So we went in, snatched a picture of Amazon's website, and we reorganized it in the way that we saw it happening. So everybody will notice they look very similar to Google Plus bubbles. We came up with the idea of your purchases would be on the left, your bubbles would be in the center, the active bubble would be in the center, and you could drag and drop items, and then you can create other bubbles, either a whole new one or suggested bubbles. But most importantly, you see that there is a trash can, so you could delete things or you could delete a whole bubble. That was a big thing. Again, I think that really kind of helped us to solidify our win. From here, our next one was an example of recommendations that could be added to the bubble. The one in blue is the active bubble, and we theorized that you could begin to see the items that showed up in that recommendation list based on the active bubble. So the top is the active, the bottom are the recommendations that come from that bubble. Next, here now the other big question was, so in 2 slides prior you saw those were all your past purchases. Well, you're shopping along and you have a potential item that you're interested in. Here it is. It's really hard to see, but we edited the bottom to say add to my bubble. So if you're shopping and you come across an item that you're interested in and you think, I would like to start getting recommendations about casual living, no fuss style for a comfortable home, then you can add it to your bubble and you can start to get recommendations based on that. So you can have bubbles for shopping lists of things that you would be interested in. You can have bubbles for gift recommendations for mom. You can have bubbles for gift recommendations for dad. You can have bubbles for recommendations for yourself, for reading, for class, for whatever. Let's see. This was just our end. The big question that we got during the Q&A session was, what about how many bubbles could somebody have? And we had agreed before, and I answered that you could have as many bubbles as you wanted. You could have as few or as many. The savvy user could have 100. Most people, we figured, might have 5 to 10. And this is how we did it. Now, I think we put in a few more hours than some of the other groups. I'm not really sure. We just met whenever everyone had time, which was generally about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. we would take over the ASIS registration desk, and we would sit down there and do this work. We just divvied it up sort of ad hoc and said, hey, can you, okay, great. And we kind of threw things back and forth. If we saw each other during the day, we would say, hey, how's it going? I actually had to work the ASIS, oh, I can't think what the name of it was. It's supposed to be like a job posting room. Nothing went on in it because everything was online, but they had this room still and boards. So I had to sit in there, so we used that for a while to meet during the day. I made great friends. Ellen was from Simmons. Justin, now I can't remember where Justin is from, and Tanya was from Slovenia. So it was great fun. I was a little trepid about going in and doing it because I had no clue, and they won't tell you anything about what it is that you're going to be doing. So it was very interesting, and I don't know, one group I really felt bad because nobody except the person who ended up presenting could even come, so I kind of thought that was a little silly that these people entered and then they left it all on one person to go present and answer all the questions. They all had somewhere else to be, so that was a little strange. We won our registration for next year, so whether I'm a student or I'm a professional, my registration for next year's conference is paid, so that's kind of a nicety. And it brought a little more recognition to our organization because then at the luncheon that we had right after we were presented, they asked us all to stand up that had won. So it was a lot of fun. It was kind of interesting. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you for your presentation, Melissa. That was really interesting to learn about how the student design competition was run and what the topic was that you ended up working on. Does anyone have any questions for Melissa about the student design competition? Melissa, I have one question, well, related to this. I know that you had thought about using the student design competition as perhaps a model for a contest that we could run. Do you still see that as being a possibility now that you have done the student design competition?
Yeah, I actually do. I've got some ideas, and I think if we can create a small committee later on, like once we get the YouTube contest down and gone, then we could come up with a small student design committee. You know, I think it should follow the same premise as this. It should be very quick. It should not be some long, drawn-out, crazy type thing. That we can define a question or, you know, some subject, and then just tell people to basically go wild. Because seriously, the answers to this were so varied. There was one group who used hunger as their motivating factor, and the idea of using tweets and then getting recommendations of things to follow. So if you were newly homeless, you could get suggested people who were tweeting to follow, so you would know to go get free cheese or hot meal from here or there. They lost themselves a little bit in the way they designed it, but it was really interesting. And then we had somebody who was like fashion design, and if you're buying clothes, you should have these sliders on what would be most interesting, and you know, varying degrees of popping the filter bubble. And you know, I think if we just do it small and we let people use their own imagination to come up with the answer, I think it will be great. I think it'll end up being a lot like the YouTube videos, a real self-expression of themselves, and you know, a really good outcome.
Great. I'm glad that that's a model that can probably lend itself to another student chapter contest idea in the future. I don't know if you mentioned this during your talk, but did you mention about how many teams participated in this competition?
There were 5 all told, and people ranged. I think almost all of us. Well, Justin, who was on my team, was actually a member of last year's winning team, and he was actually an undergraduate last year. He's a master's student now. I don't know, nobody else apparently there had participated in last year's, which was the serendipity experience. I'm not sure I would have wanted to have participated in that one. But you know, they range. I think there were even some PhD students there, or doctoral students. You know, age, it was all over the board. And then, like I said, it was international as well as statewide. And 5 groups, generally 4, I think one group had 5 per group.
That's good. It sounds like there was, you know, good competition and a good turnout for the competition among students. Are there any more questions for Melissa from anyone? Okay, if there are no more questions for Melissa, then I would like to again thank Melissa for her presentation. And I guess we have now come to the close of this meeting. Thank you all for staying late, those of you who have remained. And thank you to our 2 new attendees tonight, Diana and Edith. It was really great to have you join us and stick around for the whole meeting. I'm very, you know, happy to meet both of you. And I'll be staying around after this meeting if anyone would like to stay and chat about the student chapter with me after the meeting. I'll be here. I'll be the last to leave. Okay, good night everyone.